They keep asking, "Hey, is this made for kids?" I don't know. It's about hell. So I'd like to take my viewers on a lovely little journey to the fifth canto. I think this enters us into the first circle, actually, of Dante Alighieri's vision of hell. Uh, so let's see where Virgil leads our hero into hell. Yep, here comes the structure of the circles of hell. As you can see, there is a slight progression. We're here at the gate. Basically, we're in Purgatorio, and he came from Purgatorio because it starts off in Paradiso. You're the fifth circle of hell. Hey, no, you're not. You're very trustworthy. Dante wakes to blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read it. I'm not reading you guys. The, no, we're not doing Cliff Notes. What I'm doing, I'm so handsome right now. I'm a pretty little girl. I'm going to just read the words that Dante wrote. That's it. I'm not going into explanation. This isn't a class. A monstrous clap of thunder broke apart the swoon that stuffed my head. Like one awakened from violent hands, I leaped up with a start. A wood start. That was pathetic. And having risen, rested, and renewed, I studied out the landmarks of the gloom and to find my bearings there as best I could. And I found I stood on the very brink of the valley called Dolorous Abyss, the desolate chasm where rolls the thunderers of hell's eternal cry, so depthless and nebulous and dim that stare as I might into its frightful pit, it gave me back no feature and no bottom. I'm not gonna be your bottom, bitch. Oh, she said it. I'm gonna be your bottom. Yeah. I've changed my vape. We're doing that, and I'm making a bottom joke because why not? I can. Nope, mango twist. No, yeah, mango twist it is. So I'm once again, pretty little girl, so mango twist nicotine. It's whatever. I found I stood on the very brink of the valley called the Dolorous Abyss, and the desolate chasm whereas rolls the thunder of hell's eternal cry, and the deathless and nebulous and the blah blah blah. Death Pale, the poet. That's Virgil, by the way. The poet spoke. Now let us go into the blind world waiting here below us. I will lead the way, and you shall follow. It's God of wisdom here, so probably a good idea to listen to this fucker. I, sick with alarm at his new pallor, cried out, "How can I go this way when you, who are my strength in doubt, turn pale with terror?" And he, the pain of these below us here, drains the color from my face for pity, and leaves the pallor for you mistake for fear. Now let us go, for a long road awaits us. So he entered on, so he led me in the first circle of the ledge of the abyss. No tortured wailing rose to greet us here, nor but sounds of sighing rose from every side, sending a tremor through the timeless air. A grief breathed out of untormented sadness, the passive state of those who dwelled apart, men, women, children, and dim the endless congress. And the master said to me, "You do not question what souls these are that suffer here before you. I wish you to know before you travel on that these were sinless. So God is sending souls beyond Purgatorio into the first circles of hell, even though they're sinless. These are your visions of hell. These are the devils with horns and tails and all that shit that when you close your eyes and you think Satan, it's not the biblical one. This is where you get that shit. This is nonsense. It's a 15th century or 14th, no, 16th century nonsense. Beautiful poetry, though. Absolutely beautiful poetry. I haven't mentioned religious texts in that way otherwise, but I'd either be canceled or killed. But I can list quite a few. Now let us go, for a long road awaits us. So we entered, and so led me in the first circle of the ledge of the abyss. No tortured wailing, grief breathed out of tormented sadness and passive state of those who dwelt apart, men, women, and children, I demand those of Congress, and blah, blah. These were sinless, and still their merits fail, for they lacked baptism's grace. Yeah, they weren't dunked in magic water, so they lacked baptism's grace, which is the door of the true faith you were born to. See, now the you is emphasized literally in the Latin and the English translation. The word you, I can prove it to you. You. Do you see this you? No, wrong finger. Whatever. It give there. You were born to. So this isn't. That implies that people to whom weren't born this religion may not suffer this horrifying, tumultuous task of going through Paradiso, Purgatorio, and Inferno. The Master said to me, blah, 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 for those who are sinless, baptism's grace, which is the door of the true faith you were born into. Their birth fell before the age of the Christian mysteries. So they were before Christ were born. And so they did not worship God's Trinity. Sorry, I'm marked. I know. It was my fault. I was 16. I'm dumb. Everybody's dumb. Everybody's fucking dumb. We're all guilty of being dumb. None of this shit. This is all nonsense, and I love it. Did not worship God's Trinity in fullest duty. I am one of these. He was from the Greek world, so I mean, yeah. For such defects are we lost, though spared the fire and suffering of hell in one affliction only, that without hope we live on in desire. I thought, how many worthy souls were there suspended in that limbo, capital L, and a weight closed in their heart for what must be the noblest suffer? Instruct me, Master, and most noble sir, I prayed him that better to understand the perfect creed than conquers every error. Has any, by his own or another's merit, gone ever from this place to blessedness? He sensed my inner questions and answered it. I was still new to this estate of tears, when a mighty one, capital M, capital O, means God, when a mighty one descended here among us, crowned with the sign of his victorious years. He took from us the shade of our first parent, of Abel, Cain, Abel, killer, murderer, first murderer, the whole story. Two people apparently fucked their mom and populated the entire world, or went to the land of Nod. I'm sorry, whatever works with your fucking weird ass Christian religion. And many more he chose for elevation among the elect. And before these, you must know, no human soul has ever won salvation. He had not paused as he spoke, but held our road and passed meanwhile beyond a press of souls crowded about like trees in a thick wood. And we had not traveled far from when I woke, when I made out a radiance before us that struck away a hemisphere of the dark. We were still some distance back in the long night, yet near enough that I half saw, half sensed, with quality of souls lived in that light. Oh, ornament of wisdom and of art! He's talking to the teacher once again. Virgil, the god of wisdom. Ornament of wisdom and of art, what souls are these whose merit lights their way even in hell? What joy sets them apart? And he to me, the signature of honor they left on earth is recognized in heaven, and wins them ease in hell out of God's favor. What'd it do? We're going into hell, kiddo. Daddy-o, I should say. Manny, we're still in Canto 5. This is where it starts getting into actual hell. They're out of Paradiso, out of Purgatorio. They are descending into the fifth canto, the fifth song. You know Spanish, so you know what canto means. You're not dumb. Anyway, it is Homer. It is Homer once again. We're talking about the Iliad and the Odyssey here. Yep, put on your seatbelt. No, I'm gonna make fun of Christianity, kiddo. Hate to break it to you. I'm going to. It's gonna happen. This is my channel, after all. I'm going to mock all religion, like all of them, without. Anyway, honor the Prince of Poets. The soul and glory that went from us returns. He is here. He is here. The cry ceased, and the echo pressed from hearing. I saw four mighty presences come toward us, with neither joy nor sorrow in their bearing. No, well, my master said as they came on, that soul that leads the rest, with sword in hand, as if he were the captain and the champion. It is Homer, singing master of the earth. Next after him is Horace, the satirist. Ovid is the third, the musician, of course. And Lucan is the fourth, the absurdist. It is Homer, singing master of the earth. Next after him is Horace. Since all of these have been part in the high name of the voice proclaimed, calling the Prince of Poets, the honor that they do me honors them. So I gathered at the highest edge of light, where the masters of that highest school, whose song outsoars all others like eagle's flight, and after they had talked together a while, of course they did, they were freaking philosophers like me, we're going to talk a bit, even though you're not talking to me. So I'm talking to myself like a bloody crazy man. Enjoy. They turned and welcomed me most graciously, at which I saw my approving masters smile. Okay. As they honored me far beyond courtesy, for they included me in their own number, making me the sixth in that high company. Yeah, okay. If I got a viewer, then why not? Press on. Sally forth. So we moved toward the light, and we spoke of things as well omitted here as it was sweet to touch on there, at least. In other words, yeah, we spoke of bullshit. It's not worth talking about. We reached the base of the great citadel, circled by 7 towering battlements, and by a sweet brook flowing round them all, and then we passed over it as if of firm ground. Through 7 gates I entered with those sages, and came to a green meadows blooming round, and there with a solemn and majestic poise sat many people gathered in the lights, speaking infrequent and with muted voice. Past that enameled green, we 6 withdrew into a luminous and open height, from which each soul among them stood in view. And there directly before me on the green, the masters' souls of their time were shown to me. I glory in the glory I have seen. Electra stood in great company, among whom I saw Hector and Aeneas. Aeneas, brains out the fucking gutter. I'm trying to do like Latin justice here, and you're gonna hear Aeneas and think anal and anus. Go ahead, make butt sex jokes. Do it. Get it out of your system. Ha ha ha. Like the jizz from after. Yeah, okay, we get it. Master souls of time that were shown to me. I glory in the glory I have seen. Electra stood in great company, among whom I saw Hector and Aeneas, and Caesar in armor with his falcons. I saw Camilla and the queen Amazon across the field. I saw the Latian king seated there with his daughter by his throne. That's kind of creepy. Yeah, you are the only person that matters, Mountcula. This is your show. Truman. Anyway, and the good Brutus. The good Brutus. You notice how, okay, he called him Brutus, but he didn't say Brutus. The bad Brutus. He said in Latin, Italian in this case, he said in Italian, the good Brutus. If he had said the good Judas at this era, he would have been decapitated. He would have been burned as a witch. This is the 1500s we're talking about, 16th century we're talking about. Come on. He would have been burned as a witch if he said anything like the good Judas. It's only a couple of 100 years different. What's the difference? I mean, literature-wise, they just got the printing press. Come on, guys. You know who he's talking about. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Only 5 of us can read. And there directly before me on the green, the master souls of time were shown to me, and I glory in the glory I was seen. The good Brutus, who overthrew the Tarquine, Lucrezia, Julia, Marcia, and Cornelia, and by himself the Saladin. And raising my eyes a little, I saw on high Aristotle, the master of those who know, ringed by the great souls of philosophy. Fucker. Self-pretentious little assholes. All wait upon him. Remember, they're not in Paradiso. They're edging toward hell. And they are worshiping who? Aristotle. Jesus Christ. And that's like wisdom. Can't have that. It's only for the elect few. I'll wait upon their honor and his. And I saw Socrates and Plato at his side, of course. Before all others there, Democritus, who ascribes the world to chance, Diogenes, and with him there Thales, Anaxagoras, Zeno, Heraclitus, Empedocles, and I saw there a wise collector and analyst. A wise collector and analyst. Socrates, I mean, I saw Orpheus there. Of course, you have to have background music. Orpheus there, Tully, Linus, Seneca, and the moralist. He means Jesus. He can't say straight out. He can't say Jesus or else he'll get killed. He can't say Judas or else he'll get killed. They just got the fucking printing press. Okay? You have to understand how the world was. He had to say the moralist. Euclid the geometer. Ptolemy, Hippocrates, Galen, Avicenna, Averroes, and the great commentary. Commentary. I love that. It's not commentary. Commentary. I cannot count so much nobility in my longer thing. We all got a long theme, don't we? Pursues me so often the world falls short of the reality. The company of 6 reduced by 4. My master leads me by another road out of that serenity to the roar and trembling air in hell. I passed from light into the kingdom of eternal night. I'm not going to read you no. We're going on to Canto 5. We went from 4, we're going to 5. I said we were going to do 5. Fuck it, we'll do it 5. So we went down to the second ledge alone. A smaller circle of somewhat greater pain, and the voice of the damned rose in a bestial moan. Bestial? Bestial. I like bestial. Bestial moan. There Minos sits, grinning, grotesque, and hale. He examines each lost soul as it arrives and delivers his verdict with a coiling tale. That is to say, when the ill-fated soul appears before him, it confesses all. I mean, it's Minos. Like, it's greed, money, avarice. And that grim sorter of the dark and foul, hey, what's that? Decides which place in hell, okay, that's fair enough, shall be its end, and then wraps by his twitching its tail about himself, one coil for each degree it must descend. So each degree of the 9 circles of hell, that it twitches its tail, and you have to stand there and wait. One twitch, first circle of hell. Minos twitches its tail again. 2, you're in the I mean, can you imagine this? Now imagine it lasting an eternity and just waiting, and that being your hell. You can go on like this forever. I can always describe hell. There are like 8,000 I've described. And they're always getting funnier. Every time I describe them, man. And the soul descends and others take its place. Each crowds in its own to turn it to judgment. Each confesses, each hears its own doom and falls away through the space. Oh, you who come into this camp of woe, cried Minos when he saw me turn away without awaiting his judgment. I'm a passenger, dude. I'm just passing through, dude. I'm good. Dante passing through, not actually here for the whole hell thing. Watch where you go once you have entered here, and to whom you turn. Do not be misled by that wide, uneasy passage. You got in here easy, but you ain't getting fucking out easy. That's what Minos is saying. All right. If you've never been to a club, you never gotten in, and it was really hard, neither have I. That is not your concern. It is the fate to enter every door. And this has been willed where there it is willed must be, and it is not yours to question. Say no more. Now the choir of anguish, like a wound, strikes through the tortured air. Now I have come to hell's full lamentation. Sound beyond sound. I came to a place stripped bare of every light and roaring of the naked dark like seas racked by a war of winds. Their hellish flight of storms and counter storms through the time foregone sweeps the souls of the damned before its charge, whirling and battering it drives them on, and when they pass the ruined gap of hell, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it was 11 months old. That gap doesn't just heal up after a year. Come on, man. And after that passed through the ruined gap of hell through which we had come, their shrieks began anew. There they blaspheme. Oh, wait. Oh, that was my cue. I was supposed to blaspheme there. I've been blaspheming the whole fucking way through. Oh, goddamn. Oh, okay. Now I'm back on track. They were to blaspheme the power of God eternal. And this, I learned, was the never-ending flight of those who sinned in the flesh, their carnal and lusty, who betrayed reason to their appetite. As the wings of wintering starlings bear them on in the great wheeling flight, just so blast wearies though evil souls through time foregone. Here then, up, down they whirl and whirling again, strain with never a hope of hope to comfort them, not of release, not even of pain. As cranes going over sounding, their harsh cry leaving the long streak of their flight in the air, and so come these spirits wailing as they fly, and watching their shadows lashed by wind, I cried, Master, what souls are these? The very air lashes with its black whips from the aid from side to side. The first of these, whose history you might know, was the empress of many tongues. Mad sensuality corrupted her so that to hide the guilt of her debauchery, she licensed all depravity alike. And lust and law were one in her decree. She is Semiramis, of whom the tale is told how she married Ninus and succeeded him to the throne that the wide land of the sultans held. The other is Dido, faithless to the ashes of Sychaeus. She killed herself for love, the next of whom is the eternal temptress Lashes, is sense-drugged Cleopatra. It's who you were expecting the first time I started to describe these things. But the Western mind goes directly to Cleopatra when I say, like, Mad Beauty in the past. Everyone, she saw 1,000 ships. Shut up. See Helen there, for whom such ill arose, and great Achilles, who fought at last with love in the house of prayer, and Perry and the Tristan. And they whirled above. He pointed out more than 1,000 shades of those torn from the mortal life by love. So these were, he just compared lust to love, showing that in Latin, there are 4 words for love, even in the ancient Latin. In Greek, there are more. There are still 4, but there are neuter forms. There are gay forms. Deal with it. Yes, these happened all the way back then. I don't care what you fucking say. I don't care about anything. I am reading a book and informing you about literature in the past, maybe a little bit about history. I stood there while my teacher, one by one, named the great knights and ladies of dim time as I swept by pity and confusion. At last I spoke, Poet. I should be glad to speak a word with those 2 swept together so lightly on the wind and still so sad. And he said to me, watch them. When next they pass, call to them in the name of love that drives and damns them there. In the name they will pause. Thus, as soon as the wind is in its wild course, brought them around, I called, O wearied soul, if none forbid it, pause and speak to us. As mating doves that love calls to the nest, glide through the air with the motionless raised wings, borne by the sweet desire that fills each breast. Just so those spirits turned on the torn sky from the band where Dido whirls across the air, and Dido's temptation, by the way, across the air. So it's embodiment of, fucking Google it. Such was the power of the pity and my cry, O living creatures gracious, kind, and good, going this pilgrimage through the sick night, visiting those who stained the earth with blood, where the king of time, our friend who would pray his peace, on you who would have pitied us. As long as the wind will let us pause, ask of what us you please. The town where I was born lays by there the shore, where the Po descends into the ocean rest, where its attendant streams in one long murmur. Love, which in its gentlest hearts will soonest bloom, seized my lover with passion for that sweet body from which I was torn, unshriven by my doom. Necrophilia. All right? We're in the first circle of hell, the tiniest. These two were in love until she died. And he consummated. You judge them? Go ahead. Judge them. I want to see you do it. I want to see them comments canceling me for being pro necrophilia. Go ahead. Say it. I don't care. I don't care what you have to say because you haven't been through that shit. And this poet, this author understood that. People died really young sometimes back then. A lot of them in childbirth, obviously not these two. I'm going to reread that bit. The town where I was born lays by the shore where the Po, P-O, descends into the ocean rest, where its attendant streams in one long murmur. All right, that's a place on the map. You can look it up. Love, which in its gentlest hearts will soonest bloom, seized my lover with passion for that sweet body from which I was torn unshriven to my doom. Love, which permits no loved one not to love, took me so strongly with delight in him that we are one in hell as we were above. Love led us one to death. In the depths of hell, Caena waits for us who took our lives. This was the pietous tale they stopped to tell, and when I heard these world-offended lovers, I bowed my head, and at last the poet spoke. What painful thoughts are these that have lowered your brow covers? I don't know. Death. That's kind of a depressing thought, isn't it? Virgil. Alright, anyway. When at length I answered, I began, alas, what sweetness thoughts, what green and young desire led these two lovers to this sorry pass. Then turning to those spirits once again, I said, Francesca, what you suffer here melts me to tears and pity and of pain. But tell me, in the time of your sweet sighs, by what appearances found love the way to allure you to his perilous paradise? In other words, to death. God damn. And she, the double grief of a loss in bliss. You understand that? I think you understand loss. Is to recall its happy hour in pain. Your guide and teacher knows the truth of this. That's the truth of Virgil, yeah. But if there is indeed a soul in hell, to ask of this beginning of our love, out of his pity I will weep and tell. On a day for dalliance we read the rhyme of Lancelot, how love had mastered him. We were alone with innocence, dim time. Pause after pause, that high old story drew our eyes together while we blushed and paled. But it was one soft passage overthrew our caution and our hearts. For when we read how her fond smile was kissed by such a lover, he who is one with me alive and dead, breathed on my lips the tremor of his kiss. That book, and he who wrote it was a pander. That day we read no further. She said this to the other spirit who stood by her, wept so piteously I felt that my senses and my faint away with anguish I slept. With such a swoon as death is, I fell, as a corpse might fall, to the dead floor of hell. And love will do that. Has a tendency. Love and death. Beginning of life, the end of life. All made of the same shit. Thank you for taking a little time out of your day to stare into the void. Remember, as Nietzsche once famously done, thank you for blah, 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 go away.